All right, it's 4:03, so I think we're going to get started. It looks like most people are here. I do want to make a motion to change the agenda a little bit. We have a guest speaker, Noah Fellman, who is the new GIS coordinator. And Noah has agreed to kind of share with the Trails Coordinating Task Force some potential opportunities to, as I understand it, to make some changes, updates, upgrades to the Trail Finder webpage for the town. So if
so moved.
Okay, thank you. All right, Noah, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Sure. Okay. Everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. So nice to meet most of you.
Oh yeah, Noah, maybe we should start by, have you met most of these people, or maybe we should just go around and quickly have folks introduce themselves just so that you have a sense of who they are and who they represent.
That would be great.
Okay. Looking at my screen, Sydney, you're top left, so why don't you start?
Hi, I'm Sydney Van Zandt, Groton Open Space. We saved a lot of properties working on a lot of trails, and I have a report on the new trail from Judson Avenue that includes the new bridge for after wherever you get that in the agenda, which I can't seem to find on my desk today.
Okay, thanks, Sydney. Bruce.
I'm Bruce Jones, and I am an RTM member for District 7, and I am the liaison from the RTM to the Trails Committee, and also a candidate for town councilor. So you'll see me about and around the town.
All right, Bruce Lofgren.
Yeah, hi everyone.
I know Bruce.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
we've met many times.
Okay, Joan Smith.
Okay, I'm Joan Smith. I think we've talked on the phone. We're going to work
Yes.
on the map once
President.
it's ready. Yeah. Okay.
All right.
And that's it. I'm going to go.
Okay, Bray.
Bray Rafferty with the Conservation Commission, Vice Chair of the Conservation Commission currently now.
Nice to meet you.
Joellen.
I'm here, Joellen Anderson, representing Avalonia Land Conservancy, NOAA. We haven't met in person, but someday I hope we can get the green off the parcel map so that Avalonia can reproduce some of the layers without the green overlays.
Absolutely.
While you're here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
He signed a long-term contract, so there's no trading him to other communities, so he's here for a while.
Yeah, what do you pay?
And Tom Olson, I think that's the only person that I think I may have missed.
Okay, I've met Tom.
Oh, okay. All right, then we're going to turn it over to you, Noah, to wow us with what we might be able to do to make enhancements to the webpage.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think the first option, which may not be the best option, is that we just keep things as they are, but we kind of try to reconfigure, retool, speed things up a little bit. That should be possible. I mean, we've made a lot of enhancements to the back end of the main GIS viewer that can be made to some of these other smaller apps. It's one way to go. I'm not sure if it's the best option at this point, though. The first thing that kind of jumps out at me is that we have 4 different apps that, to me, kind of do the same thing. I mean, we've got the Parks viewer, the Trails viewer, the Water Access viewer, and then Parks New London, which all, to me, kind of generally seem to serve the same purpose. So I'm wondering if we can consolidate that down and serve that data a little better. I also think it's probably worth thinking about how all these things came together 10, 15 years ago in kind of a very different internet landscape, and thinking about how we can better set things up for 2021. When you were putting these things together, again, 15, probably 20 years ago, there's certainly no all trails. There was no, Google Maps barely existed. I think today those sources are probably, they sort of have their place and we sort of have our place. And I think we need to kind of figure out, what that is and what we want to do here. And to that, I have some ideas, but generally I'm all ears. I'd like to hear what everyone else has to say on that. And that's sort of the gist of it for now. I expect there's going to be a lot of big changes to make. As far as the actual data goes, I think what you have is pretty good. I mean, you've got all these trails pretty well under control. It's just a matter of kind of, I think, getting it into a format that we can put out there that's going to be a little more effective than what we've got right now.
It was 50 years ago that we started with property.
Wow.
Yeah, it wasn't 50 years ago that we started on the trail guide. It was probably 7 years ago that we started this.
Yeah.
So I guess, one of the things that I heard was combining you said the Parks Finder, the Trail Finder, and the other one is?
Water.
Oh, water, yeah. So I guess, one of my concerns would be pulling it all together sounds great, but I think we need to be careful that we don't create something that's so complex that it's
Sure.
difficult to navigate, which.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so, I don't know how others feel, but that would be one concern, is that, it's so overwhelming that people there's too many bells and whistles, and, it's too confusing.
Got it.
I don't know, does anybody else? Bruce, Gray, rather, sorry.
Sorry. One question I have is that I have problems printing. So if I call up the trail maps and I'll call up, say, Pequot Woods, up it comes, and then I want to print it out. So if I can take it out for a walk with me, I've got 8.5 by 11 size. And a few years ago, before some glitches started to happen in the town's computer system, you used to be able to do that.
Okay. Is that coming off the Trails Finder app?
Yeah, you go to the town's website and you pull down maybe Parks and Rec, and then you highlight where their trails, trail maps is located, and you call that up, and then the big map comes up with all the different trails that we have mapped. Then you click on the right-hand side is the list of trails, and you find the one that in particular you want to take a look at. I click on that, eventually it comes up, and then over on the right-hand side, there's a little thing that says print, and at least on my operating system, it goes off into wherever, and it just, the magic ball just keeps spinning and nothing comes out of it.
Okay, that actually sounds familiar. I think we were having a similar issue with the main site before we made some upgrades a month or two ago. So I'll look into that. I'm sure it is, if I can find it, it can be fixed.
So, Noah, can you, by combining the three websites, how different is it going to look? Is it going to look completely different, or will it look fundamentally the same? They'll just be, and maybe you don't even have an answer to that question yet.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would think it would be I would think it would be fairly different.
Okay. Are there options as to how different it looks? What I'm getting
Absolutely.
at is
Absolutely.
so we meet quarterly. And so our next meeting is in December. If between now and December, if you started working on, say, like 2 or 3 different mock-ups, not obviously not doing the whole thing, and
Right.
then maybe we could invite you back and, you know, get some feedback on the 3 different choices. You know, maybe we could send it out ahead of time so that people could see it and maybe play around with it a little bit, understanding that, you know, all the data isn't going to be in there. Is that a reasonable request, or is that
Definitely. Yeah, totally doable.
okay. And should I submit a request to Brian for that? Or
Probably, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
But
Does that sound like, for those on this call, does that sound like a reasonable?
Well, I have a question.
Okay.
Are you talking about standardizing the maps for all of the properties? Say that you have now on the Parks and website, rec site? Or basically Jenna used to, and probably Noah will help us make our individual property map. And each organization may want different emphasis or different details depending on the organization or depending on the property. So would there be possibility of 2 different sets of maps, one that Ghost can put on his website, but different one that you put on the Parks and Rec website, if you want to standardize it across the board?
yeah, this wouldn't affect that. This wouldn't affect any of like the downloadable PDFs or anything that
Okay.
that those can be set up however anybody wants them.
Okay, well, that was my question. Okay.
Sure.
All right. Any other comments or questions? You guys are awful quiet today. Normally I can't shut you up.
Well, how about, how would you envision mapping Crosstown Trail, or from, you wouldn't have something planned or imagined or just what exists now? I'm thinking of, we're trying to expand Crosstown to go around by the airport and over to Eastern Point and maybe eventually up to the bridge or something. But it's not there. How would you deal with that?
Do you mean that it's not on the site currently?
Right now, once you leave, say, the Peconic Boardwalk, after doing Crosstown Trail, and then you're back on the streets, on Route 1 and then South Road, Thomas Road and all that. But we are envisioning, there's different organizations that are doing it, the Bicycle Coalition, the trails, all that, Conservation Commission, everybody's talking about future maps. I guess you would wait until it's actually on the ground and marked and
Presumably.
yeah, okay.
But once we have that planned out, once we have the data collected, it's pushing it onto the website is not a big deal.
It's not big.
That's,
Okay. So the hard part is getting it built. The easy part is putting it on the map.
yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right.
And I know there's a lot of other updates, on the main GIS site and space that that isn't showing up, and we're working over here to try to get that all sorted out and get everything updated. We'll get there.
Okay.
All right. Anybody else? Okay. So
You said that that Tom Olson was on,
Yes.
yes.
because he sent me an email that maybe he wants to report about the trail that COSA cut yesterday. Tom, you there? Tom,
Oh,
can I read,
okay.
can I read it? It's short.
Yeah, so
COSA,
Sydney, does
Oh.
this have anything to do with, are you getting ahead of yourself here? I know you're anxious to report, but while we've got Noah here, let's focus on webpage enhancements and then we can move on and
okay,
let him.
and I see Tom. We'll let him report it. He takes such good pictures too.
Okay, all right. So
Don't-
Noah, I think what I'm gonna do is I'll send a request to Brian and then ask you to come back. December, does that give you enough time?
I
to
think so. I'll have
Come up with a
something.
couple of different options.
Yeah. One other
Okay.
thing I should
Yeah.
mention while we're on the subject is I kind of at least breached the subject of moving over to Android and iOS to start building, if we were going to do some kind of a Groton outdoors app, if we want to distribute that on the various phone marketplaces. And, Brian has had some experience here doing this in the past. I guess there was a Groton app at one point. And his feelings on it were the adoption rate was pretty low. And he also had some concerns about, if we put this out there, are we going to end up troubleshooting everybody's phones? Are we going to have to walk people through location services, that sort of thing? But that may be an option going forward too. I wouldn't say I'm planning on it, but it is something in the back of my mind if we want to start distributing that way.
Okay. So in addition to potentially the format, the layout of the page being different, what other changes would you envision? I think I thought I heard you say it might be quicker, to upload things. Is there any other changes that we might expect or that are potentially available?
I think it would just be, I'm guessing most people are using the current setup on a desktop or, some kind of a PC. I can't imagine many people are going out there and actually using the Trails app on their phone.
Right.
This would definitely streamline that process.
Okay, so this would be kind of mobile friendly.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Oh, great. Okay. Terrific. Any other questions before we let Noah go? All right. Thanks, Noah.
Thank you.
All
Nice
right.
to meet everyone. Looking forward to
Take
working
care.
with you.
All right. So now we're going to jump to citizens petitions, comments and concerns. Are there any? All right. Good. Approval of minutes. So the minutes were included in the packet. I did make, Sydney did send me one suggested change. I did make that change and it was simply to identify that GOSA had agreed to partner with the town in funding the purchase of the Watrous Wolfwood property. That was the only change that I was made aware of. Are there any others? And if not, if I can get a motion and a second to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Seconded?
Second.
All right. All right, any discussion? All right, all those in favor of approving the minutes, please
Aye.
raise your hand or unmute yourself. Okay.
Aye.
All right. All right, correspondence and communications, reports, Avalonia, Joellen? Joellen, you're mute. Oh, there you
Once I
go.
get unmuted, can you hear me now?
Loud and clear.
Okay. Avalonia Land Conservancy has applied for re-accreditation with the Land Trust Alliance, and that public notice is on their website. Avalonia has hired Tobias Glazier to be their stewardship coordinator, and he has jumped right into a variety of stewardship tasks with both feet. A 4-part continuation with the right trees for the right time begins on October 1st. All presentations are virtual except for the 2-hour field hands-on workshop on the 16th of October. The Avalonia 2021 Trail Trek fundraiser is scheduled for the week of October 16th to 24th. Details are on the website. Thanks to Bob Chapin, Preston's Town Committee Chair, for spearheading a new addition to Avalonia's website under Stewardship Resources for the identification and management of invasive plant species. Thanks also to all the contributors that submitted information to that project. If you don't follow Beth Sullivan's blog on the Avalonia website, you're missing out. Her recent one has more information on invasive species. The trails on the Leo Antonino Preserve, the new one on Antonino Road, will be marked soon, and plans are being developed for a dedication ceremony in October. Recent acquisitions include a 47-acre property in Norwich, and a recent thing, information from Connecticut Land Trust, is that they are hosting a risk management initiative. And I think that would be interesting to at least Groton Open Space if you're not already aware of it. It's collaborating to bring risk management support to your land trust. And that starts the end of September, but for questions, and then it actually begins on October 18th. Thank you very much. I'll send that
Wonderful.
to you.
Thank you. Cop property. Dee, I hope I'm not stealing some of your reporting, but Kent and Frost is working with Groton Utilities to try to establish a connection between the two properties. I know Chad Frost was out there with representatives from Groton Utilities about 2 weeks ago, and Chad is working with some old mapping that identified a number of trails, and hopefully we can come to some type of an agreement on where the trails, where the properties should connect and how they will connect. And this is all part of the Tri-Town Trail project. Groton Utilities has recently at least opened the door, partially maybe, to the idea of having trails through some parts of their property in order for Tri-Town Trails to be able to make a connection from Preston all the way down to Groton. So that's all that I'll say for that right now. I'll leave the rest up to Dee because I'm sure she's got more information. Crosstown Trail. At the last meeting, we had talked about doing a ribbon cutting when the bridge was complete. The bridge is complete. I did speak with Rick Norris today and asked him when the bridge was going to be open. He thought it was already open. The last time I was there was big orange signs saying bridge closed or trail closed. So I don't know if that's changed since. So if that has,
Mark,
yes.
I refer down to Tom.
Mm-hmm.
Or email Tom, you're reporting on getting to the bridge.
Yeah, this is, I had emailed both Mark and yourself that as of yesterday, at noontime yesterday, the signs were still up.
Okay.
I don't know if they got taken down today or anything, but signs are still up, but the path is all cleared out. As part of GOSA work party, Joe Smith, myself, my wife, Marie, all cleaned that up over the last week here, and I finished it up yesterday. So you got a clear path. It's had a year's worth of overgrowth because nobody had been using it because it had been closed. But it's ready to go and standing by for an opening ceremony, I think.
Okay. Well, I think Rick was going to check on if it was still closed, why it is still closed. And once I hear back from Rick, I can let folks know. It's my impression that it's not going to be closed that much longer. And I think I wouldn't want to do a ribbon cutting and still have the bridge closed, because obviously there's going to be a lot of attention, or some attention, to the bridge being open. So I don't. A couple of questions that I had was who we should invite and when it should be.
Have we got a name for that bridge? For that part of the path?
No. We typically don't name sections of paths and yeah. It's the Tri-Town Trail. I mean, the Crosstown Trail, rather.
Okay.
Yeah. And,
Crosstown Road.
yeah. So I don't know if folks have any thoughts on when a good time to hold this. I think we need to invite people from from the Board of Ed, and also I can't think of the name of the group that made the recommendation to fund that bridge from while the school was being constructed. I can't think of the name of the group, but I think we ought to invite them, and then obviously, town officials. Does anyone have any thoughts on it, on a day and time?
I think we should also invite the people whose properties are included in the Crosstown Trail.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yep.
That would be Avalonia and Gotha.
Yes. And the town. Yep.
Right.
I would say October is a beautiful month.
Okay.
November starting to get a little darker and drearier,
Yep.
but that could be fine too.
Okay. Yeah, I would agree. October is probably a good time. Maybe like 4:30 in the afternoon or something like that.
Sounds good.
Are you thinking weekday or weekend?
Well, I was hoping weekday.
Okay. Yeah, then people can get there after work. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Right. All right. Well, I will, I'll look at the October calendar just to see if there's Board of Ed meetings and things like that. And then.
Okay, go.
Joan, you broke up.
Daylight saving is November 7th.
Okay. Can you hear me?
You're still kind of breaking up.
Hello, I'm not getting good sound.
Okay, we hear you.
All right, you're good now.
Okay, I'm not hearing any sound.
All right. Well, I'll work on a couple of dates and throw those out.
Okay.
Okay, well, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, go say, we're building a bridge at the sheep farm on the 21st and the 22nd. That's Thursday and Friday.
Okay.
So please don't skip to that day.
And that's October.
October, yeah, 21st and 22nd.
Okay, we'll stay away from those dates.
Okay, thanks.
All right, let's see. Groton open space.
Okay, did we report last time of the purchase of the walls and the woods property? We purchased it in July, so,
Oh, yeah, then it would not have been in the report.
okay. Well, it's off of Drosdick Drive, just
What's the name again? Sorry.
Waltz, as in Walter, Waltz Walls and Woods.
Great picture on our website.
Yeah, it's a tiny parcel, 5.7 acres. And the highlight feature is the walls that Walter Watrous built there. Really tightly constructed stone dry walls and the gardens he has there. Flowering cherry trees, creeping phlox, rhododendrons, azaleas. So it's especially beautiful in spring. But it has a small woods. We just put in or just improved or restored a little bit of a loop trail in the woods. We still have a lot of work to do on invasives and and just getting things up to speed. But it's contiguous, but I think it's too hard to actually have a trail, but it's contiguous to the ledges, which the town owns, the open space, and the Boulder Heights up the ravine. But I don't think you can connect there by trail. There's a water connection, there's a forest connection, but I don't think you can hike between it. But it is part of the Baker Cove watershed. It goes over to the pipe that goes under the parking lot at Benny's and post office.
There's
So,
a
okay.
picture-
Oh, Cindy's holding up a picture here.
Picture of springtime.
Okay, well, so that was our latest acquisition, and we will be mapping and building trails on the sheep farm south. Currently, we just have the blue trail that connects all the way through. And as I said, we're building the bridge at the end of October, or 21st and 22nd, across Fort Hill Brook on the blue trail. And one other thing I didn't notice, do we have, is the mayor of the city, Keith Hedrick, a member of this task force?
No, he
Because-
is not.
Okay, he's been participating in the Baker Cove Watershed Task Force, and he's pushing for a trail that goes from the Thomas Road all the way up to Kolnaski School. And most of it is town property. And it goes behind what's it now, the Thames River Elementary
Magnet
School.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he would be a good one to invite to join us or talk about his plan for that. He's been a really enthusiastic supporter of the whole concept. So I would say at least invite him in occasionally or
Okay. Maybe we can
Okay.
have him participate in the December meeting.
okay. And Sydney, did you have anything else to add?
No, you did well, Joan.
Okay, we're done.
All right. The town trails, Public Works has told me that they are expecting the extension from Lily Lane out to Industrial Drive to be completed in October. So apparently the homeowner or the property owner is receptive to the idea of providing some type of an easement for the trail to continue where it terminates now, going out to Industrial Drive, and Industrial Drive will get restriped with a dedicated bike lane on the side of the street, going down to is that Depot Road?
Yeah.
Depot Road is
Yes.
the entrance to Bluff Point.
Yes, yep. So that work is supposed to be, right now it's scheduled to be done in October.
Okay, great.
So that will further extend the trolley trail all the way down to Depot Road.
Mark,
Yes,
I should add that GOSA, if you go to our website, gosaonline.org, and go to properties, it tells the story of all of the properties, but also gives a map which you can download.
oh, terrific. Okay, good. Tri-Town Trails, B. B, you're muted.
In the state. He's still
Tom.
muted.
Still muted.
Tom,
There
I
you
know
go.
I'm muted. Okay, I
Oh.
unmuted myself. Okay. Sydney, did you have something? No.
no, I was trying to catch Tom. It's not hooking on. Tom,
Yeah,
He's listening.
He's listening.
So anyway, so update since June is that we've completed over 14 crossings. We used Boy Scouts. Steve Bacon came in and built our most difficult bog crossings. We have an aluminum crossing for the fire department to rescue people out on the trail. And then this happened.
Oh,
Down over, I don't know.
nice trail.
30, 40 feet down the river.
oh,
So luckily we have some very dedicated volunteers, and it's 90% rebuilt, about 3 feet higher than it was before. So to anticipate any future floodwater. We launched our website also, and there's blogs about the trail. And then my other visual is that we are having an open house. I think you can see that. We're having an open house October 3rd, 1 to 4. It's a celebration of the opening up of 4.2-mile trail in and out. It's very family oriented. There'll be a kids run, an adult run. We have food trucks. We have the nature center. We have a fire truck, climb on fire truck. And also we're excited that we actually can celebrate that we actually have a trail, and it's open, and all the maps will be in place, and our new trailhead. As far as Groton Utilities, all I can say is they have met with everybody, haven't they? You all, it must have heard. I mean, they've met with Groton Town officials, Ledger Town officials, Avalonia, Groton Open Spaces, Chad Frost, the president of Tri-Town Trail. So I'm hoping that we have something that will be happening and we can announce it, but they've met with everybody, so they're working it. So we're hoping that we'll have something positive to report. And you know, we just keep plugging along, and they haven't said, they haven't stopped talking to us, which happened 10 or 12 years ago. They just said, we're not talking with you anymore. And we're on to our 4th meeting, I believe. So we hope it keeps forward.
great. Okay, next is, let's see, we did the trail webpage enhancements, Connecticut Greenway designation. Mr. Olson, do you want to speak up?
Can I say something? May I say something following up on B?
Sure.
Okay. If you go in the library at the information desk, you see all the flyers that B was holding up. So if you want your own personal flyer, they're at the information desk at the Groton Public Library.
Thank you.
you.
All right,
You
Tom.
have the, our email addresses we could send it out to our organizations if you have a flyer, you know, a PDF or something.
A lot of you are getting invitations, personal invitations in the mail, so you just haven't received them, and I'm going to be giving out brochures to Mark and Joan and Sydney and anyone else who wants them. And I tried to drop them off at Town Hall, but Town Hall's not accepting any kind of community bulletin board announcements. And there's road signs. That was a road sign. So you'll see those. There are going to be 3 in Groton, 3 in Ledger, and 3 up in Preston. So the road signs will be out too. So you'll be able to see that.
Okay.
Okay, but do you have an email
Say it one more time.
Yeah, Joan, we're not hearing you. Your connection has failed you. All right, let's move on to Tom.
Who you
and-
talk,
Huh?
I'll call you, Joan, in case you wanted to talk to me about something.
All right, Tom.
Okay, the next topic is the Connecticut Greenway designation.
I'm having trouble hearing sound. You sound like you're under, all of you sound like you're underwater.
I'm sorry about that, but hopefully everybody else is hearing me well.
Yeah.
You may need to reboot, Joan. As far as one of the things that from the Town Conservation Commission last year, we issued out our open space conservation plan. Part of that was in that is the update to the green belts that were part of the POCD for the town. And so what when in that process, we noted that the Parks and Rec Commission had gone forward with a Greenway request to the state, recommending that the entire greenbelt system that's in the POCD be designated a state greenway. That submission was not approved by the state. And subsequently, the Conservation Commission is still trying to work as far as on in its processes, what's the best way to move forward. And so, in talking to Mark from the Parks and Recs Commission, the recommendation was to take and present this to the task force to see if the task force wants to be the coordinating activity for moving forward with the green belts in regard to trying to kind of, I think we overstepped ourselves by putting too much out there for the state. If you take a look at a lot of the other green belts, they're very specific areas, relatively short term and not a whole town encompassment. And you see that when you take a look at New London and Ledyard. The New London Greenway designation is basically from basically the bridge down to the Fort Trumbull area. Ledyard is up working with the Avalonia folks and getting some joints things with the town parks up there. But it's a very short section down in the southwest corner of the town. And so what we did from the Conservation Commission's perspective is, are highlighting what areas could we potentially put a green belt proposal together for submission to the state. And I'd like to share with you what the Conservation Commission viewpoint is. I'm sharing my screen right now, that hopefully you'll see the green belts are in the dark green, and then we're looking at three areas. One would be is taking a look at the proposed open space greenway, which is taking a look is in dashed red, that kind of goes down from the central portion of along, which is in the Gosa properties or Avery property, the Camdenwood property, go across to the Camdenwood Hill area, some PA 490 parcels that are south of Camdenwood Hill, across through the interstate area, using the culvert system that's there. Again, through some commercial area that people are looking at, and then through the Gosa Sheep Farm, the PA 490 that's been recently purchased by Gosa now is that's in an update in the next update that'll be reflected as Gosa property. Across to the Merritt, kind of following down where the Crosstown trail is, across Haley, and then in utilizing this open space areas. The second one is to tie into the Tri-Town Trail. portion that's in Groton, basically coming out of Bluff Point, going through the town center areas, and then up through alongside of Route 117 along the the Groton Utilities reservoirs. And this is the linkage that Mark was talking about earlier up in this area. I was on that walk a couple weeks ago with Chad Frost and 5 officials from Groton Utilities. We were able to determine a fairly already previously marked socially, but not by the Groton Utilities, but on their property, trails that then link up with the COP property, and then the generic Crosstown trail that's still to be worked through with Groton Utilities north of 184 off to the Ledyard line, and then potentially a connection to the Great Oak Greenway in Ledyard. And the third trail that we're kind of looking at is what we call the Gold Star area, starting down at Avery Point, going through the Birch Plain, through the golf course areas, up through the Birch Plain Creek that Joan had mentioned earlier, where the trail, and then up through the Kalinowski. That area is not designated on here, but there's the Kalinowski area in this area, and then through Washington Park, through some of the areas that we had to work through to get across the railroad tracks and stuff, and then up, and then hopefully link up some way to the bridge crossings, so that you then link up with the New London Greenway. So those are the 3 areas that we were looking at from the Conservation Commission and in the discussions that I've had with various folks. And so this is what we're kind of proposing, is would the task force be the proper mechanism for furtherance of this, of putting these 3 proposals in for Greenway designation. So I'll turn this back over to Mark.
Mark, I have a comment about the map, if I may.
Okay.
Tom, when
Yes.
you come through Haley Farm and you go to the Mort Wright Preserve, if you make that red go left a little bit, because that's town land. Right now, you have it go out of Mort Wright into public property and into the Merritt, but that is not the way the trail goes. It goes from the top of the Mort Wright a little bit left and then into the top of the, exactly.
Well, and that's all flexible in the future. These things are not like permanent.
Right, but I just thought I'd get you out of wandering through private property into property that is already either town or open space owned. That's the only error I see in that whole map. I think it's wonderful.
And that'll be in the next revision if we get into more details. I have to go with the POCD, where what it ended up with, as far as where the stripes were put down. I'm just using that as a starting reference point. You can always go in and go into more detail as far as where things are, what areas. That's the whole thing about going into getting a Greenway designation. It allows you to then have a process in place that says, hey, we have a goal of doing this for completion. And that allows you to get some additional funding and that type and additional support by having that state designation. And so in regard to either getting, fixing up what the actual details of the plan are relative to the individual trails, what are the areas that are just for habitat transitions, what is on PA 490 land, what's on private lands that you may need an easement for, that type of things. And this gives you this is the intention, not necessarily the gory details of what's going to be the final trail. Your comments noted in regard to tweaking the next revision when we get down to details to stay with the Crosstown Trail marking in that area.
Okay, well, you don't have it on the trail that exists, so I'll just put my 2 bits in there so that hopefully you make a little wrinkle so that it goes on the trail that exists.
Thanks.
Don't worry about it. He's going to get us out of the reservoir too.
All right, thanks. Tom, a couple of questions. What's the deadline to submit this? Because I think this, as I recall, you know, we did this 3 years ago. They make their decision, I think, sometime in May or June? Is that
They try
still
to-
the case?
This past year and the year before, they made all the announcements in June. So having a submission, they kind of have a rolling process a little bit, but they, on an
Okay.
annual, basis, typically about mid-June when they make the announcement. So you need to be up and have stuff already in place, probably by the end of March.
Okay, so we've got a little bit of time.
Yes.
And I don't remember how involved the process is.
Well, I know that
You-
last time you did it, is that you did have to take it to the town council to get their approval.
Okay, all right. Well, we know how difficult the town council can be. Right, Bruce? All right, so I guess I could go through my notes and look at the referral that I did I guess it was 3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago now. I can't
February
remember.
18.
18, okay, so yeah, we'll be, so I can look at that referral. Essentially, at this point, Tom, I think, other than a couple of tweaks, which I'm assuming you guys are gonna be working on over the next couple of months, or,
As far as the tweaking to the map, this is where we need to be working with Noah.
okay,
On his agenda here is because he's in the process of updating the base map that's behind this.
okay,
And we the Conservation Commission with Larry Dunn and myself have been working with him directly. And that's what I've been doing all day today is getting the background data, putting together for him and that type of stuff. So in Noah's, what he's doing for just side information from the Conservation Commission perspective and in the GIS part is that as part of the parcel team that we've got on the Conservation Commission is that we have a requirement as the Conservation Commission to be managing the index of all town open space. And in the past, this has been basically a spreadsheet. And so what Noah has volunteered and come up with a way is to take that, import the spreadsheet into his GIS database. And then with the additional fields on here so that we can then be able to click and say, here's all the town open space that's managed. Here's all the town space open space that's dedicated. Here's all the town open space that have facilities on. Categorization is outlined in the POCD. And then you'd be able to do the same thing for all the privately held open space. Likewise, for state open space. And so we have these different layers that can pop up and you can take a look at it. And then you can also analyze how it all goes together. And what is the prime areas that you need to have. And then he's also going to add in Envision capability. Because like if you get to a colonoscopy, it's a split property.
right,
Conservation easements. So he has these different layers that he's working on putting in here. We're working with open space, and that's what he was talking about, trying to blend everything into a master database. And then you would then just have to go in and say, where are the trails on all that open space property? And so he wants to be able to take that information and also tag that in at the same time. So you can just turn on that layer to add in all the trails to all your open space property.
okay. So what, if I was to go, or we were to go to the council, would we be using the map that you just showed us?
I would hopefully have an update to the map that I just showed.
Okay,
That will take into consideration what, I'll kind of walk away from the detail. I will get the details of the Tri-Town Trail map. I'll get the details of the the Crosstown Trail, like the city had mentioned here. Put where we have trails already, use those established trails. and generate a new map that would be the submission. But this is the only reason I was presenting this. This is the best information I have at this time. Using
Okay.
documentation that I didn't have to get off and regenerate anything.
Okay, so I guess at this point, I'll wait for that updated map to be developed and then
Yep.
work on a referral and we can go to the council and ask for their approval to submit something to the state for Greenway designation. And when I did it in 18, I don't recall there was much opposition to it, so I don't think it's going to be an issue.
I think,
Joan, you're cutting out again.
I think there. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, better.
Yes.
Okay, I think there's a November deadline or something for the current round. They just got funding for the Greenways. So I double checked on that. I may have to speed up the timing.
Well, that's funding for if you're going to do trail improvements and stuff. We're talking about just the designation is done through a different process.
Oh, okay. You're right. Okay. I gotcha.
Okay. Thank you, Tom. So the next agenda item under new business was Maple Glen open space. So this is a parcel that the town recently, it was part of a subdivision and the town recently requested that it get transferred over. It was, I think, on the books to be transferred, but never took place. And I sent you a map, was included in the packet. It's off of Pleasant Valley Road North. It's a 20-acre parcel, and it's I've hiked it with Deb Jones, and it's a rather unique property. There are some VW van-sized boulders. There's quite a change in the grade. There's kind of like a valley, and you're walking next to these huge rock outcrops, which go up 30. An interesting parcel. There are currently some maybe social trails that existed based on connection to a community, a neighborhood that's over there. I know that there's interest in developing trails out there. What I wanted to put out to this group was if perhaps we could get a couple of people that were interested in doing a walk out there and perhaps discussing where the best place for trails to be and laying those trails out and flagging them, and then seeing if we could get a group of volunteers to actually build those trails. So I don't know if there's a group, if anyone's interested in doing that. Within the Parks Department, we don't really have expertise in trail building. We worked with the Groton Conservation Advocate Group they laid out the trails at the King Kolmaski property, and the Parks guys went in and did, the trimming and whatnot. So I was hoping that we might be able to do that type of arrangement with some folks from this task force. All right, well, I'm not hearing much. Seeing a couple of smiles. All right, well, I will reach out to the conservation advocates to see if I can get them to help us lay out some trails up in that area and add that to our growing list of trails in and around Groton. And it's in an area of town that in 2009, we did a recreation master plan, and that particular part of town was identified as having a low level of service as compared to other sections of the town. So it's great that we're going to be able to add some trails up in that part of the community. So
The school,
what's that?
where is the school in relation to that? I'm not cozy with that part of town other than.
The school is probably half a mile away from there, I think.
Mark, I have walked this property, and the school is at the corner, just up the road you see the Briar Hill Road and Gunjiwamp intersection on the map?
Yes.
And that big parcel there just to the right, that's the school property.
Okay. Yeah, I guess when I was saying half a mile, I was thinking from really the only access point to the property is off Pleasant Valley Road. So you'd have to go back Pleasant Valley Road and then turn on to Gunjiwamp, and maybe that's less than half a mile, but
Is
yeah,
there
it's
in any of those, in that school, for instance, it's not open, I guess, it's not in operation, but at any of the schools, are there any folks that are interested in doing that sort of thing?
at the school.
Any of the schools?
Well, we generally rely on adults to do that kind of work. We don't put, shovels and saws and whatnot in the hands of kids,
Okay,
or try not to. All right, well,
I'd also like to point out that
yeah.
this has access. The red that's on the map is kind of misleading, because wherever you see the gray line that's abutting the dark red, that's all also the property line.
Yes, yeah, I was trying to do that freehand.
Ready access from Catapala Drive, as well as there's a little finger that goes down to Gunjiwamp.
Oh, yep, okay.
There's lots of accesses, and that's really where a lot of the social trails have generated coming out of that Navy housing area, because that
Right.
the Taupo is all Navy housing.
Yes, yep. All right, anything else for the good of the group? Okay, so our next meeting is December, and I don't have my calendar up, but I think we do it earlier in the month, just so that we're not too close to the holidays. So I will thank you all for attending. We got through quite a bit today, and we'll see you all in December.
Okay, goodbye.
All right, thank you. Good night.
hi, everybody, good to see you.
Okay, thank you.